Now, the other name we have to remember, and this guy changed the world. I'm talking about legendary Boston Celtics center Bill Russell, and he passed away at the age of 88. And you talk about a man that changed the game and a man that changed a lot of things as it relates to the world. It's this guy. I'd say Bill Russell was the second coming of Jackie Robinson, not just as a great talent, but what he did socially as it relates to blacks, African Americans, as it relates to minorities, what he did in terms of industry. When he spoke, people listened. 6'10". The first big man in basketball was George Mikan with the old Minneapolis Lakers, and he was good. Bill Russell was the next big man, and he really changed the game. Changed the game with defense, changed the game with offense, changed the game with a fast break basketball, John. When you look at his statistics of averaging 15 points and 22, get that, 22 rebounds a game, he brought the big man into the NBA. And then, of course, after Bill Russell came Wilt Chamberlain, and then it became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then it became Willis Reed, and all the other great big men who followed. And understand his approach to life had to do a lot with social injustice because he grew up dirt poor Louisiana and he was victimized. Now, he was a smart guy and he went to a Catholic school at the University of San Francisco. And they won at that point, the NCAA tournament 2 years in a row with him and Casey Jones. This is before March Madness. So he came to the NBA where blacks were really not significant players, and he became really significant. And he opened the door for so many other great African Americans because here came Oscar Robertson and all these other guys. I think the other thing is unique about Bill Russell, he played in a city that was known as being racist. If you go back and if you research, black players in Boston have had a lot of critical things to say about that city and their treatment of African Americans. And he did this in the 50s into the 60s. It was absolutely amazing because he became a man on behalf of social justice. And I think on top of that is he also, a lot of people fail to realize this. He was the first black head coach in the NBA. He was a player coach at the end of his career in Boston. I think he played 15 years, went to Seattle, did very well with the Supersonics, wound up his career in Sacramento. He was the first African American head coach in the NBA. You open the doors and look how many minorities coaching the NBA. It's 75 to 80% now. So he pioneered so many things and smart man. Never had the chance to interview him. Read one of his biographies. He just had great influence on players, teammates, the game, and then what he did in Washington, D.C. When then President Obama gave him the Medal of Freedom. It was emotional in Washington at the White House when he gave him that medal in the final years of the Obama administration. The man accomplished so much as a human being. So we think fondly of him. And if you really want to find out more about Bill Russell, just Google the name and see what he did, not just athletically, but what he did socially. Hell of a guy.
Well, some people have said that he's the best team sports player of all time across all sports.
Champion. I think that's the only word you can use to describe who he was, champion. And he played on only one team his entire career. And he played before a staunch old school guy in Red Auerbach. But he was an intellectual. When you consider coming from dirt poor Monroe, Louisiana, backwaters, to get to the University of San Francisco and to graduate, I mean, he was just intellectually over the top, and that impacted a lot of the things that he did as a social change guy. Somebody asked me on another talk show last week if I could equate Bill Russell and what he did with somebody else in sports, and the only name that came off the top of my head is Tony Dungy, the great NFL coach turned broadcaster, who has just tremendous social conscience in terms of dealing with things athletes are dealing with off the field, whether it's staying out of trouble, whether it's the hiring of African American coaches. Tony Dungy is influential now in sports, especially the NFL, as Bill Russell was in society and the NBA. Special, special guys.